Hey everyone, Red Rebel Jeff Jones here, and in this video I want to talk about the consequences of some of the cultural and societal messaging that boys and men get regarding expressing themselves emotionally. And this isn't something that is talked about anywhere near as much as it should be, but it definitely is an important part of the conversation. Now before I get into it, please like and share this video to give it a boost. When it comes to the conversation around men's mental health and male suicide, the argument that is repeatedly brought up is that men don't express themselves. Now, there's an element of truth in that, but it's actually a lot more complicated, and I think it's important to talk about this. First off, when people say men don't express themselves, they don't express their emotions, they don't show their feelings, there's a bit of that they're actually cutting out. And this is actually a societal thing, the reason they cut this out. There's this bias in them. And that is, the full sentence that they should be saying is, men don't express their feelings in the way women do. Because there's this bias in our society that the way women express their feelings and emotions, by just talking it out, straight out like that, is the only way to share your emotions. But that's actually not true, and I've actually talked about this in a previous video. I'll leave a link to it down below. But men do express themselves kind of less these days. But this actually isn't because of, as the CDC would describe it, as toxic masculinity. They've blamed toxic masculinity on the gender suicide gap. Even though this toxic masculinity, which is the attributes of masculinity and being a man, is inherently toxic. But if that was true, then why has the suicide gap been... It's because it was pretty equal years ago. But that gap has been slowly increasing as we've progressed as a society. So that clearly shows toxic masculinity, or masculinity inherently, doesn't lead to that. I think it's fair to say that the cultural and societal messaging that men and boys get is a big factor in the reason they commit suicide, or at least the reason they don't actually express themselves and talk about the issues that they're facing. And the main reason is, we've actually brought them up to know that society just doesn't care. Now, this cultural and societal messaging, it starts actually pretty young. Mainly the common phrase of big boys don't cry. And there's a lot of other messages like that we constantly tell our very young boys. But this actually tells the boy two things. First, it tells him to internalize his pain, internalize his feelings. But it also tells him that if he does express them externally, if he does express his pain, then he will not be given empathy or compassion if they do show their emotions. And psychiatrist Tom Golden has talked about this quite a lot. And I think this is why kind of his work is incredibly useful in terms of understanding men's emotional range. Because men have a much bigger emotional range than anyone will give them credit for. Men don't express themselves emotionally the way women do. But society doesn't want to hear about that pain. Now we always say, oh, men should talk about their pain, they should talk about their problems. But we've told men, societally, and especially culturally, that no one gives a damn about the issues that they face, about their pain. So they've gone, why would they? Like, why would I express myself? Why would I express my pain if I know I'm not going to get any empathy or compassion? And that's kind of how that's progressed a bit. Men's emotional pain is seen as taboo, as something that just shouldn't be touched. Women's emotional pain is a call to action by society. Oh, a woman is in pain, we have to go help her. We have to support her. When men are in emotional pain, we shouldn't have to deal with that. That's the attitude that men face, and so it's no wonder why they don't express themselves. Now there's one area that's definitely goes in quite deeper, and that is something called precarious manhood. And that is the idea that men, societally, have to constantly be showing that they're independent, and that any sign of dependence is seen as a big weakness by society. Listen, this is the cultural messages men are actually getting here. Men need to be seen as independent, otherwise society sees them as not real men. And that's a serious problem that, again, no one wants to deal with, really. It's only the men's advocates that are out there that want to challenge this. This is why, again, Tom Golden's work is super, super important. But when we describe a man who isn't independent, who can't deal with his emotional pain on his own, what we're actually telling them by describing them as not real men is that society sees them, that yes, they need help, but the fact that they can't help themselves is a reason that we shouldn't help them. That in fact, if you're not a real man, then you're unworthy of help. Why would any man seek help if he knows by expressing that he needs it, that he won't get it? There's a quote by a guy called Peter Moran, and I think it's a very important quote, a very important statement, and that is, for men, by being in need of help, he has forfeited his right to it, societally speaking. And even though it's a sad thing to hear, it's a sad idea, it is necessarily true. And this is something that's been annoying me for a good while. We constantly hear that men should talk about their feelings, they should share their emotional pain. But these are the same people that are shaming them, especially young boys, that sharing their pain, that they're unworthy of help, they're unworthy of compassion, they're unworthy of empathy. And this is where men's tendency to look at what people do, not what they say, really comes into a societal reaction. Because those people will say men should share their emotional pain, they should share their emotions, they should express themselves. That's what they say. What do they do when men share their pain? They shame them. They shame them for their emotional pain. But more specifically, they shame them for externally sharing it. They're shamed for externally being emotional. So men will react that if I'm going to be shamed for sharing my emotional pain externally, I'm not going to do it because it's not beneficial to me in any way. And yes, that does lead to them internalizing their pain and them having to then deal with that on their own. But the reason that's a problem, and the reason why that has happened, isn't because of men inherently doing that. They're told to do that. So I think it's fair to say it's not that men need to change, that they need to show their emotions, they need to express their emotional pain. It's that society needs to bloody well start listening to them, and that society needs to actually care. Now, what do you guys think? Share your thoughts with me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear them. And if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and do not forget to subscribe to keep up with my latest videos.